Are you serious? Are you serious? Well, as we were telling you earlier in the year, one of the prophetic words that the Lord gave me for this year was there would be unbelievable move of God, miracles, unbelievable miracles, so much so that the news media would have to report on it and would not have an explanation, though they lack faith. Well, it's happened again. 2 people have risen from the dead in Liberia from Ebola. Both of them are pronounced dead, had been dead for some time, for over a day, one over a day, the other one almost 2 days, and hours before their funerals, they woke back up. They are alive. I want to thank Rosemary Kelly for sending this to me. Now, there's several reports on it. Some are doubting, of course. But let me say something before I go any further. Do you believe the Bible? If you do, stay with me. Because when the Lord spoke to me and said, Paul, this year, 2014, there will be miracles, unbelievable miracles, so much so that the media would have to cover it. Well, in Mississippi, a man died, Walter Williams. He was pronounced dead at the nursing home, and by a doctor, first by the nursing staff, then the doctor. When that happens, you have to have your body washed, prepared for the coroner. The coroner then comes to pick up the body. But before a coroner takes the body to a funeral home, they check the body again to make sure there's no pulse, no breathing, no heart rate at all, eyes fixed and dilated. And when the coroner says, yes, you are dead, he puts you in a body bag, zips it up, and takes you to the funeral home, which they did with Walter Williams. All of that happened. Doctor had signed the death certificate. His body was brought to the funeral home, put down in the morgue, and 6 hours later, when the embalmers came to do the embalming, Walter Williams was alive and kicking in the bag trying to get out, and is alive now. This happened in the spring of 2014. Matter of fact, the media was so shocked, they did a report on it. Here is ABC News with the report.
Is rejoicing after the apparently what they're calling a death and seemingly resurrection of a loved one.
It's an incredible story. 78-year-old Walter Williams pronounced dead by a coroner Wednesday night. They put him in a plastic bag, zipped him up, and took him away in a hearse. 2 hours later, Williams's grieving relatives got a phone call from the funeral home. He was clearly alive. He started kicking the bag to get out.
I don't know how much longer he gonna grace us and bless us with his presence, but hallelujah, we thank him right now. Right now.
Funeral director said he's never seen anything like it. Even the coroner is calling it a miracle. Can you imagine being the coroner who's going, what the heck's going on with that bag over there?
No, how scary, but incredible for this family, and they say that he's doing just fine now.
They say he's full of energy.
You notice the news, the lady reporter said, it's kind of scary. It's scary if you don't know the power of God, but if you know Jesus, like the woman who was rejoicing a few minutes ago, saying, hallelujah, you're not afraid. You're not scared. You just realize that the Bible that prophesied in the last days that the dead would be raised. Now, not only did that happen this year with this man in Mississippi, but a pastor's son in Newcastle, Indiana, was paralyzed from the waist down. And in a church service, a 4-year-old boy walked over to him on a Sunday night service and said to him, Joel, this Thursday, you're going to get up and walk. And Joel, on Thursday, just a little bit after midnight, began to feel sharp pain and feeling in his legs for the first time in months. I think, I forgot, 6-8 months. And within an hour, he was up on his feet. And he walked down the hall to his parents' room, and they were shocked as he could walk again. I had him on my radio broadcast on my live show, and he testified of the power of God, and now he's preaching in churches and explaining the power of the prophecy and the miracles of God. Now, there was also a bus driver, a devout Christian in Ohio, who had a flat tire, stopped his bus, got out, looking at the tire early in the dawn of the morning when a car pulled up with some gangbangers. that opened fire on him. He was shot twice in the heart by two different men, each one shooting him directly in the heart from two different guns. But he had a New Testament Bible right here in his pocket that caught both bullets, and the man is fine. Miracles. The odd, you say, well, just a lucky thing. One guy hit him in the heart. That's just so lucky. But two different men, both in the heart, both caught by the Bible. Are you seriously going to grab a hold of that and not say there wasn't some divine intervention by the Lord of glory? Now, let's go to Africa. Matter of fact, it's happened many times, folks. I mean, many, many times. In the Bible, we even know that the prophet Elijah raised the widow woman's son from the dead when he stretched his body upon the child's body and began to speak life back into him. We know that the Apostle Paul preached all night. A man fell out of the loft in a barn, and he was dead. And Paul walked over and said, he's not dead, his life is in him. And the young man rose from the dead. We know that Jesus raised many from the dead, and so did the disciples in the early church. Power was upon them because of faith. We know even Jesus raised a man from the dead. Oh, yes, I know Tabitha, the little girl, had been dead a few hours, almost a day. We know of other incidents where Jesus raised the dead. But Lazarus had been dead 4 days and was in the tomb when Jesus raised him from the dead. We know it has happened. You can find that in John 11. But what happened in Africa was two women have been raised from the dead that died of Ebola. And the media has to cover it. I want to thank Rosemary Kelly for this report. Two Ebola patients who died of the virus in separate communities in Nimba County, Liberia, have reportedly risen from the dead. The victims were both females. One was in her 60s, one was in their 40s, and they died of Ebola. One died in Hope Village community, and the other one died at a Catholic community. But to the amazement of the residents and onlookers on Monday, the deceased reportedly regained life in total disbelief. The New Dawn Nimba County correspondent said that the late Doris Quelly of Hope Village community and the second victim, only identified as Ma Kibeth, said to be in her late 60s, were about to be taken for burial when they both were resurrected. Ma Kibeth had reportedly been in the door for 2 nights without food and medication before her alleged death. While Nimba County has had bizarre news of Ebola cases with a native doctor from the county who claimed that he could cure infected victims, dying of the virus himself last week, this case happened in a Christian community where these two women at Hope Village community were both raised from the dead. There was a witch doctor Heidi was talking about earlier who said she could heal you of Ebola, and come to her. People did, and 357 people all died. She got the disease and died also. The devil will profess he can do things, but Beelzebub can't cast out Beelzebub. But these two women is reported to have raised from the dead from Ebola in a Christian community called Hope. Well, there had to be some prayer going on there, is all I can say. And the word of the Lord is true. And the Lord said that we will have power in the last days to lay hands on the sick and they shall recover, and even to raise the dead. We've heard of it in revival meetings in different places across the world, and we know God does it. But many people still doubt the power of God. And matter of fact, they probably don't believe that Walter Williams is alive in Mississippi. But he is. Are you saved? Now, this is not a zombie apocalypse. I want to let's just get this clear. The zombie apocalypse is really demon possession that are causing men to be like dead men. The only person that has power to raise from the dead is Jesus Christ. Because Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the resurrection and the life. So as Christians, we will see the dead raised. We will pray. And periodically, we will see the dead raised. But it is Jesus that raised them from the dead. Are you saved? Give your life to Jesus Christ. We're living in the last days. God bless.